While this is truly a joyful season, it can also be a stressful one. The National Alliance on Mental Illness says 3 out of 5 Americans feel like their mental health is negatively impacted this time of year. KLTV 7's Avery Niles has more tonight on the holiday blues and how it can linger even after the decorations come down.
While the months of November, December, and January are known as the happiest months of the year, for many people that's not the case. Dr. Donald Winsted, a psychologist in Longview, says the holidays can bring up depression or anxiety due to underlying grief.
Because during the holidays, when there's this, kind of added expectation for us to, connect with people and get people gifts and talk to them and celebrate, all those kind of things, if there are some important people in our lives that we've lost, that's going to come to fruition.
Winsted says holiday spending, planning social gatherings, and unresolved trauma may also be triggers too.
Some people have grown up in families where during the holidays is when there were more problems, stress, and issues. That wakes up those memories that are in the back of our mind, brings it into our adult subconscious, or re-traumatizes us.
Winsted says it's important for people who are experiencing the holiday blues to reach out to friends or family they trust who will validate their feelings and not brush them to the side.
The important thing is empathy, not problem solving.
Winsted says a lot of times these feelings won't go away on their own after the season is over and needs to be addressed with a professional through different therapies.
There is no magic wand, there is no magic potion, I wish there was, but there are a couple of approaches that we have now that can be very effective.
Avery Niles, KLTV 7 News.
And if you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, call or text the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. That's 988 again, 988.